I do need to get... Alright, so I got my tea. So, yes, I am that noob. I do have Overwatch now. I just really need to change a pace from Paladins. But I did like the game. I am level 30, and I've played a good amount of the game. So with that in mind, what we are going to do is we're going to talk about the heroes and how they differ. So we're not going to talk about the differences between Paladins and Overwatch. I mean, they're fairly simple. There are obviously less characters in Overwatch than there are in Paladins. There's not... yeah, you can join the party, but I gotta finish my video first. There are a lot of... There's a lot more flexibility in this game because you can switch. So the whole game is about counter-picking as opposed to just simply, you know, pick a character and you counter-pick. There's no loadouts or anything like that, and the game mode changes. So this is just my brief overview of how I feel about each of the characters. We'll start alphabetically, and we'll just go for all the supports. So you start with Ana. Ana is one of the harder characters in the game to play for a support. I like playing Ana. She is a situational pick. She doesn't do a lot of damage. She's a bit of a sniping character, but she does a decent amount of healing. Her sleep dart is a great interruption. Her nano boost is very good to use on high damage characters or characters that are about to push. In a pinch, you can use it for the damage reduction to save somebody, especially if you chuck a biotic grenade on them. I do like Ana. It's not really a situation of, you know, like, playing her. She really is an aim-based character, and you will get shit on her if you don't know how to play her. Baptiste, being a newer release, is a bit broken. He has longer cooldowns, which offset how powerful his kit is. Having a 10-round grenade launcher that heals people in a small area of effect. Having a 3-round burst with, like, 15 shots in it. 15 3-round bursts is very strong. His DPS is similar to a slower firing Soldier 76. His healing is very good at range. The regenerative burst is a great way because you can pop it to heal yourself and give a nice chunky heal. And your immortality field is basically a Fernando ult every 20-30 seconds. I forget if the cooldown is 20 or 30 seconds, but it can be destroyed. It's great for countering ults, but certain ults like Reaper's Death Blossom can completely counter it, or a Diva Matrix. But comboing his immortality field with his regenerative burst gives him a quick, effective way to heal. I don't really use his passive ability at all. His shield is a bit weak in my opinion, his ult, because it doubles the damage and healing effects of allied projectiles, which makes it great for putting it in the back line and letting allies, like longer range characters like, say, an Ana or a Mercy, kind of shoot through it to double the effects. But to me, if it gave a little bit of, like, actual barrier, if it was an actual barrier that did that and could block some damage, I would say it's a bit stronger. Other than that, he is kind of broken, but it's because he is a newer support to the game. Brigitte, the controversial talked about. They say she's a support. I like her kit. It does require a little bit more work than you would think. Her L1 is not that great. It is good for clearing space against targets that you're outmatched against. Her rocket flail is great for some long-range damage. Her repair pack is solid because you can use it for 2 separate situations to buff an enemy with armor, even though armor in this game is rather weak. But it also is solid for a heal, and it does have a low cooldown. Her shield is strong, but not overpowered, like, say, a Reinhardt or an Orisa. Her shield bash is nice for knocking people out of their ultimates, and her rally is incredibly strong just because of the fact that it gives you that movement speed and that armor to sort of charge in and go crazy. I think that she works well in multi-healer set a lot. The next support that we have to cover is Lucio. I don't like Lucio. I'll admit that off the bat. A lot of people play him. I don't really like how I like part of his kit. I don't like all of his kit, so I'm a hard one to judge on this. His ult is great, but I don't find myself playing Lucio enough to get it out often. It provides a solid boost in shielding, I'll give you that much. I don't like his damage, though. I find his damage is hard to get. His speed boost and his healing boost is effective. He's a bit like Grover, having a passive heal with the amp it up, basically giving you that short range burst, like a rampant blooming. He's meant to be a push type support, but I think all of the supports in this game, even people like Mercy that people think just sit in the back, I think they're all can push. And you have to be aggressive as a support to sort of dive in with tanks and be aggressive. I don't really like his knockback. His knockback to me, when it says short range blast, it's like directly in front of your face. His wall ride is a fantastic way to get around quickly and make yourself harder to hit. But to me, he does require a little bit more skill bouncing between the heal and the speed boost, but I find myself doing a difficult time actually doing a lot of healing with him. Mercy, obviously Mercy is the easiest of the supports to play because she's a heal bot. She just sits there and she heals. If you are holding R2 on an ally, you are healing them constantly. If you put R2 and R1 at the same time, you stop healing them and you give them a damage amp. Now this is very effective in a situation where you're maybe running with a Baptiste who has an immortality field up, or if you're running with an Ana, where she's healing him and has a nano boost on him, and you're just giving even more damage. But I find the damage increase isn't that strong unless you're paired up with a flankier character like a Reaper or a McCree. Guardian Angel is a weak movement ability, but it serves its purpose. It's meant to help you fly into an ally and heal them. I think her revive being moved off of her ult into a 30-second cooldown is great, but I missed the ability to revive multiple people at once. I think that was very strong if you could revive multiple people, mostly because I will try and fly in with Guardian Angel, revive multiple people, and end up reviving, say, a Hanzo instead of a Reinhardt, because they both died together. And it annoys me that I can't just resurrect multiple people. Her ult, I actually like her ult, gaining the ability to fly and enhancing your abilities, where it basically just makes her, it turns her into Furia. She also passively heals over time, which is good for getting out of combat. Overall, very easy to play, but she has no DPS whatsoever. Her pistol is absolutely pathetic in damage output, but she's not meant to do that. She's meant to sit in the back. Moira is solid. People say Moira is harder to play. I don't really have a problem playing with her. She gets fantastic healing. She's basically the damage version of Furia. I mean, not Furia. Fuck, Mercy. I keep calling Mercy Furia and whatever. So your L2 is actually your damage, and your R2 heals. But you have to deal damage with your L2 in order to replenish your biotic energy to heal people. So you have to deal damage in order to heal. So she can't be this spammy heal bot like Mercy, but she's also not a damage type healer like a Lucio or a Zenyatta. She has to strike that fine balance. And she does do good damage. And she does have a decent range. Her heal does decent healing. She also has a little Ghost Walk ability, like a Koga Shadow Step or a Grok Ghost Walk, making her immune and letting her move faster, kind of getting out of combat. It's also directionally controlled. It makes it very effective for getting in and out of certain situations. And with a low cooldown, it can be used kind of spammy. Her Biotic Orb is incredibly powerful, because when you press R1, you can use it to create a bouncing ball that will damage or heal allies depending on what you select. So this gives you a second way to heal while you are out of biotic energy on your R2, or it gives you a way to damage enemies from a longer range. And because it bounces, it can create multiple damage opportunities. Her ult is insane because it heals and damages allies at the same time, which makes it very strong in a tightly contested point grouped up to just power through with her ult. It also gives her a third healing option on the table and a strong secondary damage option. The next healer that we have is our last one, and that is Zenyatta. I'm not particularly fond of Zenyatta, but I don't really get the opportunity to play him all that much. I might like him more. His R2 is a solid projectile weapon, with his L2 allowing you to charge up multiple projectiles at a time and spit them out. This makes him a bit of a burstier damage dealer. He also has 2 orbs, an Orb of Harmony and an Orb of Discord. So his Orb of Discord is launched at an enemy, and it increases the amount of damage that they take. However, they have to stay in your line of sight, and his Orb of Harmony launches an orb at an ally and follows them and heals them as long as they stay in your line of sight. What I like about the Orb of Discord and the Orb of Harmony is it is a line of sight healer. So he works very well with someone like a Reinhardt, and he works very well going up against other team tanks because he's able to effectively lower the defenses of the other side and buff his own, but it requires line of sight. However, I find his healing to be very low, which is why I don't play him. He, to me, is like Lucio, where he has such a low healing amount. His Transcendence is great because it makes you damage immune, heals nearby allies, and you move faster. This is a great ult, but I find it to be a bit of a weak ult in comparison because it lasts such a short duration. It is powerful, but lasting a shorter duration. Overall, the support class I find, other than Lucio, who I just can't play. I can play Zenyatta. I'm not good enough with him yet, I'll admit that. But I think the support class is very strong, and it's best to have at least 2 healers in a game. My ideal team comp would be to have 2 healers, 2 tanks, and 2 damage. We will talk about the tanks as the next class, and the first tank we have to talk about is D.Va. D.Va is your ideal dive tank. She does a lot of damage. Automatic short-range spread weapons for your R2, but they do have good poke damage at range, just hitting a target for a mild amount. She's meant to be a type of get-in and brawl type character, but without being more of a melee type character like an overtly short-range character, I should say. So, your L1 allows you to fly in the direction you are facing, and you can fire weapons while using it. It does have a relatively short cooldown, and it gives you the ability to go up into the air. Her defense matrix is where I get a little bit iffy. I don't find her defense matrix to be as useful. It is solid for blocking damage, but it's hard for me to really know when I'm blocking damage or not because of how it functions. Her missile attacks deal solid damage, but I feel the cooldown's a little bit long. All of this is made up for her by her ult, though. Her ult is, of course, a beast. The blast radius is gimonstrous, and it's basically you get a free mech out of it. So, D.Va can be a bit annoying because if you know how to play her properly, you will pretty much never miss ults, and you always get a second life because you'll be able to get out of your mech, fight for a little while, then get a new one, and go back into the fight, because if you die, you don't really die, your mech dies, and then you die. But she does have a bit more skill than some people say that she takes. Some people say she's the easiest tank in the game to play. I disagree with that. Next tank is Orisa. She is incredibly tanky. She's incredibly strong. She has solid DPS on her, basically an automatic Gatling gun. It does slow her while firing, but she's one of those sit in a place and protect it type. Very similar to a Bastion, but more mobile than he is. Her shield has a low cooldown for how strong it is, and because it can be thrown in front of you, it makes it very strong for pushing. Her Fortify is a great way to counter characters like Reinhardt's or Ana's that try and stun you, as well as reducing damage taken to buy your healer time. Her Graviton Charge, very solid way to pull enemies in the direction you want. Not really the strongest ability in the world. Some people like to use it for damage. I don't. I use it to actually like pull people away or pull somebody into an ult. Her ult is a strong ult, similar to that of Ana's, where it gives a damage boost to your allies when they're near it, but it does require good coordination. I've seen a lot of random Orisas just deploy it when there's them and a Mercy, which is pretty much a waste of that. Reinhardt, obviously he's one of your stronger tanks, but he does have 2 conflicting playstyles you have to manage, because he's a very good standalone tank to just sit there with a giant shield and march the team forward, reducing damage, or he's very good as an aggressive push tank, pinning low health targets and providing good anti-tank with the cooldown-based projectile and his actual melee attacks. Downside to him is his ult is too easy to counter. You can knock him out of it before he can use it, which makes it a bit of a waste, and he is the slow tank. He is the one that takes the longest to move with, so you will find yourself running around desperately trying to chase down faster characters. Because even though you can knock them out in 1 or 2 swings, you have to catch them first. His charge is also a bit of a risk. If you don't know how to play his around his charge, you're kind of fucked. If you miss the charge, not only does it go on cooldown, and you're in the enemy's backline with no help, but you've missed probably your best move in the game. Roadhog, solid Makoa, knockoff, and I'm saying knockoff because I think Makoa's a little bit stronger than Roadhog, believe it or not, just because Makoa can defend the team slightly better than Roadhog can. Roadhog is insane. He is an easier to use tank. Basically, as long as you hit your hooks, you're fine. I don't like his L2 where it's a medium range spread weapon.
What's up, crew?
Yo, everybody keeps messaging me to end the damn stream because everybody joined in at once. I've got 3 people telling me to end the stream. No. I'm finished my damn... I got this scripted. His ult is a solid way to damage and knock back people. I find his ult annoying, though, because it's knocking people away from me that I'm trying to do damage to. But it does have its uses around shorter range maps with environmental kills. And his R1 is a great way to just chunky and heal himself. Okay. Winston, I'm not very strong on Winston, but...
Wait, hold on. Why did Wolf leave?
Because I'm trying to do a goddamn video and everybody's telling me to stop it, and I'm not going to stop the damn video. Which is the annoying part. This is why I always go to appear offline when I go to do a video, because every time I fucking do a video, people are like, oh, stop the stream and play. No. You know, wait. Let me get my fucking video done.
Don't you just, hey, lock the party. Make it private, so nobody will join.
It's more the interruptions, because I had this down to like a 20-minute video, and now we're up to 17 minutes. Winston is a solid close-range character. The problem for me is his Tesla cannon. Just it being the unpredictable weapon that it is, it makes it hard to actually damage the enemy you're trying to do. He does have a solid shielding ability, and his primary job is just to do enough damage to enemy barriers and enemy deployables to destroy them, just to get his ult up and just go to town on people. Leap in, bashing people, knocking them away. But I find with Winston, very similar to, like I said with Lucio, his ult, as good as it is too hard to get up based off the rest of his kit. He is very solid as sort of an anti-tank character because he cuts through shielding and deployables very easily, and he's good at protecting the team. He's not all that strong for confirming on kills, though. Hammond or Wrecking Ball, whichever one you want to go for, the giant hamster. This is not a difficult character to play if you play him the basic way that I do, which is roll into enemies, use adaptive shield with a lot of enemies around you to get the maximum benefit, and go to town with solid, quick-firing, high-damage automatic fire, and his minefield that basically denies the entire area you are in. Where he becomes difficult is mastering his grappling hook. Your L2 launches the grappling hook, and you can use it to sort of swing around, and the more you spin around and around, the more damage and the farther you knock back enemies to. But mastering where to put the actual grappling hook so that you can get the best radius to swing around is what takes skill. I honestly use it more as a movement ability to just sort of swing like Tarzan across the map to get in easier, but he actually deals really solid close-range damage and has solid defense. The downside to him is that he will make your job as a healer a nightmare, because when he has his adaptive shield up, you heal the shield before you heal him. So if you activate your adaptive shield with 4 to 5 enemies around you, that means there are 4 to 5 enemies that are around you, increasing the health of your shield, making it harder for your support to actually heal you. Zarya is the last tank. I just straight up do not like Zarya. I do not play her. Her ult is powerful, in that it sucks enemies into it, so that it's a Sarah's ult essentially, but in a tank form. I don't understand this character. I understand how her passive works, where the more damage you block with your barriers increases the damage that your primary weapon does, but anytime I put a damage barrier on another ally, they die. It's like, it doesn't block damage, and I don't know if I'm supposed to hold it, or if I'm supposed to just put it on them. It's in how she plays just doesn't make sense to me. My damage barrier doesn't do anything. All I find it doing is I'm dying, but it gives me a short increase in the amount of damage that I can do. It's basically like a last stand mode where I'm going to die, so I increase the damage of my weapon before I die. When they say she has a short range beam weapon, they mean that. It is short range, and it looks on screen to me like I'm hitting it farther. I have gotten better with using her longer range grenade launcher, but I just don't like the character in general. I don't find her very tanky. I don't find her to be like a Torvald, where she can shield others and they do more damage or something like that. I just don't understand her playstyle. Most of the characters here are damages. Damages are pretty easy to cover. Ashe is broken. Obviously, being a newer character like Hammond and Baptiste, they tend to be a bit more unbalanced than the other characters. Ashe is that definition. She not only has a sniper mode that increases your damage, she has a semi-automatic hip fire that kind of fires like buck shotgun. You can just infinitely keep firing the gun, because when you get down to one round, you just load the round in, shoot, load the round in, shoot, load the round in, shoot. Her coach gun is not effective if you're trying to use it as a close-range damage option. You're mostly using it to create space. You can use it for damage in a pinch, and I like to use it to... I've actually used it before to kind of create this jump scenario where I use it against enemies to pop myself into the air so I could buy enough time to either finish reloading or to put a snipe on them. Her dynamite is incredibly solid because you can play a lot of mind games with it, either using it as a way to create a large-scale explosion that does a lot of damage, or as sort of a mine to make enemies think about what you're going to do. It doesn't have the shortest cooldown in the world, but you can get it up pretty rapidly, especially if you're accurate with your long range and your close range primary fire. We're not going to talk about Bob. Bob needs a nerf. You deploy a giant...
You gotta nerf Bob.
You deploy a giant fucking mech that comes in, shoots anything in his sight.
He lasts about 15 seconds, though. What's the nerf about him? He's just basically Soldier 76 on crack.
Yeah, but that's the point. She basically is getting a character. She's getting another character that she deploys. Bob is a get-out-of-jail-free card for Ashe, which is kind of what an ultimate ability is supposed to be, but this is on an already strong character having Bob. She is broken. I do like Ashe a lot. She's one of my primary damages, but hey, Bob needs a bit of a nerf.
Crude.
What?
Are you the Ashen one?
Oh my god, no one will let me finish this fucking video. Hold on. Bastion is... I had this script in, now everyone's coming in and messing me up. Shit. If I can't play with anybody until I can finish the fucking video, so... Bastion is an annoying cunt. Let's start off with that. Bastion is just annoying because he's mobile with basically a soldier gun. Not that impressive. And then he goes immobile with a giant fucking cannon that just shreds through people. Now, it's high risk, high reward because you have to know when to heal yourself with your self-heal. You have to know when to move out of the way. He is very good at just lock down, sit in place, and destroy crap. He does take less damage when he is transformed, but...
Spacing back and forth.
Yes, I had a script. And now I'm being disrupted, so I'm trying to remember it. His ultimate is weird. I don't think his ultimate is that strong. It is very powerful damage. And it basically turns him into his sentry turret mode, but he's mobile in it. I just don't find it to be as strong as just sitting in one spot going like a Gatling gun. He is probably the easiest character in the game to pick up, because you can literally just sit there and lock down an entire point. But he makes characters like Ana or Roadhog, who people say are strong in low tier but weak in high tier, a lot stronger. You have Doomfist. Doomfist's kit is a little bit weird to me. I can't really speak too much about it. His R2 is a short-range weapon that reloads over time. There's no manual reload on it, so you have to time your shots properly. And other than that, he's mostly a melee-based character that moves around very quickly. The more damage you deal, the stronger your personal shield is, but it's very similar to Zenyatta. It gets destroyed. I did not just start. I've been going class by class. His uppercut and his slam basically lets you control space very quickly, using it to get up and then get down. And his meteor strike is very powerful, but it's kind of harder to use if you don't know where the enemy is. It's one of those abilities that, I mean, it's common sense to just use it if you know where the enemy is, but I've seen too many people that literally use his ult, not knowing where the enemy is, to try and find them.
Strike.
He is solid, and he can definitely be annoying. Genji. I love Genji. I can't play Genji. I don't understand why. I have such a hard time with playing as... Like, Genji, Reaper are, like, the two characters that I want to play, that I get annoyed going up against, but I can't really play. Let's start... I don't like his weapon, where... It does a lot of damage, but I find it hard for me personally to hit it. That's just my inexperience with this. I'm hoping over time I get better. His ult is very easy to use because you get in close and just whack people to death with a sword. With a very, very high damage sword. And when you can get it off, it turns him into a raging demon like Koga. His dash forward is a good mobility tool, and you can use it to get behind shields to eliminate weaker targets and reset the cooldown, kind of like a Koga Shadow Step. And he does have the old Xin counter with his ability to deflect any fire that is brought at him. The downside, I would say, to his deflect is that when I use it, no one shoots into it. And there's a little bit of a lockout time between it ending and you using other abilities that gets me killed. Part of that is my positioning. Part of that is I find it annoying that every time I see a Genji with this up, everyone else on the team shoots him and he's aiming at me when I'm like a tank. And it's usually when I'm low health. That's rather annoying. Note to self, people. Don't shoot into that shit. Hanzo is very strong. Hanzo just can one-shot half the cast. And his Dragon Spirit ult is incredibly effective at denying a slightly smaller area than other aerial denials, but it forces people to, like, not sit in it. Which is another annoying thing I see, is, like, some of these big, easily telegraphed abilities, I don't see a lot of people move out the way, because they think, oh, I've got enough health to take this, and then they die. He does require good aim, and in comparing him to Widow, I think he's stronger than Widow because he's better suited for close range. The fact that he can double jump and climb walls makes him ideal for getting up to high places and sniping. He does have a reveal ability. His storm arrows are solid. I use them mostly to chunk through larger barriers, even though they do deal reduced damage. The fact that you can use it to pretty much just instantly kill a target in your face is nice. If you have the aim for him, he's one of the strongest characters in the game. Junkrat's a bit annoying to deal with. His Riptire just destroys anything it touches, but the rest of his kit requires some complexity to play other than his actual bouncing grenade launcher. His bouncing grenade launcher, solid damage, you will get kills with it, but I find his concussion mine and his steel trap a bit harder to use unless you put them in places where the enemy can't avoid them. I mostly use his concussion mine to either knock enemies off the map or to pop myself up in the air like a bomb king. And his steel trap, while it immobilizes somebody, I never see the point in that. Anytime I step in one, I don't die. Anytime somebody else steps in one, they don't die. The idea of it is that, you know, you lay a trap down and you shoot them while they're in the trap. It's very hard to do that, though, if the trap is so easily destroyed. he does require a decent amount of skill to aim when it comes to bouncing around. McCree is a character to me. He has a slower rate of fire with his pistol, and it deals solid damage even at long range. His L2, where it just unloads the rest of his clip, it is great for bursting through shields and tankier characters. You can use it on larger hitbox characters like Reinhardt's and Winston's and Orissas and Hammonds and characters of that nature to sort of quickly try and just get chunk damage on them. I see too many people trying to just spam the L2, not realizing it doesn't hit. I think his combat role actually has too long of a cooldown. A 6-second cooldown on an ability that's fairly mundane. I would have liked to have seen that maybe a little bit lowered, but again, that's me being new. Flashbang is very powerful and a great setup tool. You shouldn't rely on the flashbang to set up basic kills, though. Your flashbang should pretty much be saved for countering ults and bailing out teammates, from situations where they may die if they get hit by a certain character. It's also good for setting up other ults. His Deadeye is a problem to me. I need to work with it more to focus on actually how to aim it, where, it's supposed to function like Red Dead Redemption with the Deadeye mode there, but my problem is every time I have a target locked onto with triangle and I press the fire button, it instantly deactivates everything. So I've tried pressing triangle twice to get it to work, but it just deactivates the target that I had locked on in the first place. So, I don't know, it's confusing, but my dumbass never gets off tank or support nowadays. May is annoying just because she has her freezing potential. She's not a very high damage character. She's basically meant to be that support character that comes in, makes it difficult for the enemies. She's a disruption character. She makes it difficult for enemies to do what they want to do, so your damage can come in and get kills. Your damage and your tanks can get kills. Her ult that freezes everybody around her is solid for setting up other high damage abilities. Her short range weapon that freezes doesn't freeze people fast enough, but it does do some good burn damage. And her longer range icicle launcher doesn't do enough damage, in my opinion, to make it that viable. I just try and get up close and freeze people. She can heal herself like an Eevee ice block, and her wall, she has the Inara wall, is very solid for saving teammates, but it can also be used to mess people up, just like an Inara. Think a slightly less tanky version of her. Pharah, basically the flying-based Drogo's character. She does require aim when you're in the air to hit your shots, but she does deal a lot of damage. And I should mention that her ult does a shit ton of damage and requires no accuracy. But once you learn how to master her concussive blast, you can use it to knock yourself up into the air. If you don't have your jump jet, you can use it against enemies to knock them off or to knock them into other ults. She is fun to play around. I don't think she's a 1-star difficulty. Her ult may be, but not her. Reaper is a very solid character. I find him to be a bit annoying at times just because he's supposed to deal more damage at closer range, and he's a great anti-tank character because he shreds tanks. But, again, similar to Genji, whenever I play him, I don't see the damage. It's like I'm hitting a Winston with 4 shots and they're not dying. They haven't lost half their health bar and they don't have a healer on them. And I'm in front of their face. Again, though, that's me mostly not getting the opportunity to play him. And the thing where dealing damage heals you, I usually take too much damage to even notice it, but I do notice it. He is good for moving around, though, even though his teleport takes a long time to activate and you can get knocked out of it. It's meant to get you to a good flanking position behind them, like flanking a Widow, for example. His ult is a great way to just power through multiple people, and his Wraith form makes him move around a lot quicker. Yes, you can be seen in this, which I wouldn't like. I'd like it to be an invisible thing, but again, that would just break him. This is me being a newer player bitching about things I can't control. Soldier, a lot of people, he's the easiest character in the game to play. Pretty much as long as you can aim with him, you're good. His Helix rockets do solid bursty damage. He can heal himself and allies, which is something Victor can't do. And his auto-aim is basically a get-out-of-jail-free card. I don't find myself using his sprint all that much, believe it or not. Even though it has no cooldown on it, I don't like how how it kind of like narrows my field of view a bit. But he is solid at damage. He is solid as a backup healer. He just delivers a well-rounded character. He's able to move around, deal quick damage, provide quick healing. Sombra is an annoyance to go up against. She's very high risk, high reward. I think she is one of the most difficult damages to play effectively, just because you can hack enemies. I don't hack health packs. I hack enemies. I don't like the hacking health pack mechanic. You know, it's great for denying health, especially if the other team doesn't have a healer, but it's just more effective to deny people their own abilities, particularly healers. The stealth can't be canceled unless you're spotted or you cancel it yourself by attacking, so it is a strong movement ability. I have trouble using her teleporter, but again, that's me not getting to play her. And her EMP is fantastic for just area denial, for completely removing certain abilities from the game. If your team can't get past the Reinhardt and the Orisa that's just constantly shielding a Widow and a Hanzo, this is a great way to just sneak in and remove that threat and get in there. She also does deal solid damage, but you have to know when to get out with her. If you think you can just stay and fight like a soldier maybe could, you're going to be wrong on that. Symmetra and Torbjorn, we're going to cover them together just because they're both a similar base character. Symmetra is a bit more defensive because of her ult. I don't use her teleporters that much. I pretty much just drop them so allies can move through quicker. I don't use them myself. Her turrets deal amazing tick damage. And her weapon, when you learn to deal with how her weapon fires, with it being a short-range Grok weapon that increases over time, being able to just destroy barriers with impunity, and then having an alternate mode that causes a small AoE, she can deal solid damage, and she's a great defensive character. She does lack mobility, and she can't win against people like Tracers and Reapers and McCrees that can sort of get around her quickly and do enough damage before she can. If you get into a situation like that, your best bet is to just drop a turret and hope that the extra turret slowing them and dealing damage will give you the edge over them. But if you're out of turrets, you're out of luck. Torbjorn is a similar defense-oriented character because of his turret, able to deal solid damage. You're able to damage people pretty effectively at longer ranges with your rivet gun. I don't really like the shotgun version all that much. It is effective at close range, especially against barriers, but I like his longer range approach. His overload is a great way to just chunk out bursty damage. I've used it before to charge in with other people's ults and just do team wipes. And his Forge Hammer is a buff in damage compared to his melee if you want to use it. His Molten Core I never really get to use just because of how short it is. I keep underestimating the duration of the ability. I keep thinking it lasts for like 2 or 3 seconds, when it's like, as soon as I activate it, it's gone. So, I do need to improve on that before I rate him, but all in all, solid character. And the last two, Tracer and Widow. Tracer is your teleporting, speedy character, low health, high short-range DPS. She can do a good chunky damage with her pulse bomb and make enemies regret grouping up to whoever's been stuck. She does require a good amount of management between knowing where her blinks will put her and knowing where you were when you recall yourself. Good way to get back health, especially if you don't have a healer, but it can put you in a dangerous situation if you were on point, went to flank, and come back to point with a lot of tanks. Last but not least, you have Widowmaker. Solid long-range sniper. I think she's a bit weak at close range, which is designed to be the case. She's a sniper, not Soldier 76. Her ult is powerful for setting up other ults. She moves well with her grappling hook, and her poison mines are incredibly effective at preventing enemies from healing. I use it mostly to deny enemies from healing, especially if something like a Zenyatta ult is in play. However, in my opinion, I think she is a little bit outmatched by Hanzo just because, realistically, they both deal the same damage at long range. Hanzo's a bit better at close range, and he has the same mobility other than the grappling hook. She can get up to a few places that he can't, but he can generally get there faster without having to use the movement ability. But anyways, that is the noob Overwatch player's opinion on the heroes. I will have a second stream up for some actual shitty ass gameplay where I'm stuck on tank.